You get 3 rolls, and each one of these numbers corresponds to a random question I have.
Is this a graveyard?
So this is meant to look like, kind of. This is meant to look like the gates of Jurassic Park.
Oh my God, I love it. All right, let's go.
Roll it in here.
Oh.
Admittedly, I did not know what a dice tower was until I finally bought
It
one.
rolled the same number. That's so crazy.
It was meant to be, and it's a Dune question. Okay, so I need you to answer this question from, like, your personal perspective,
Okay.
not your character.
Okay.
Of all of the characters in Dune Prophecy, who would you trust the most, and who would you trust the least?
I would trust Tula the most. Even as myself. Like, I really would. Is the least Fuelin's character. Jen? Yeah, I don't trust her.
Jen seems so good.
No, I don't trust her. She seems fully, like, very one foot out. I mean, there's probably a bit of value in her, arguably. Like, this seems like an ulterior motive. This feels so obvious. Like, yeah. I don't know anything about her story. Like, there's no spoiler involved in this. Like, everything was kept, like, pretty
This
separate.
is so interesting.
To me, like, she's very spicy. There was a press day when we did quizzes, you know, like the BuzzFeed quizzes, and I continuously kept getting my own character. It was crazy. I think that there is quite a lot of I'm kind of very similar to Valya.
Okay.
So maybe I'm cheating slightly, but she seems very suspect.
No, this makes me want a season 2 even more.
I wouldn't trust her.
Okay.
I would trust. Atula is hopelessly the nicest person ever, like, to a fault. She's a little science nerd. You can't go wrong with somebody that just does experiments.
I want to trust Tula so badly, but then I think about certain things she did.
I'm so fascinated that you don't. She's just doing what she's told.
I mean,
she's completely hopeless.
Oh, it's hopeless.
I mean, obviously, like, I would really trust Sister Avila. Beyond.
I don't know. Now that
Beyond the most loyal person. Talk about a ride or die. You know, because, like...
Because I've seen it all.
She's a full ride or die. I would trust Lila. But she's foolish with it, you know?
Yeah. Where is Lila?
I mean, she's in the drink, isn't she? Like, she's in the spice. She's in the tequila gold. She's probably going to be okay. She's young.
I could just sit here and theorize about season 2 with you all day long.
I love it. But, like, it's such this is what I love about Dune. Like, I only came to it, like, truthfully through the movies, and then I became, like, a huge fan. And, like, I love reading about it. I love nerding out on Dune. Like, it's kind of an endless drunk conversation, you know?
Like, looking at it that way.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to get back to some theorizing in a moment. But first, you have your second roll in the tower here.
Okay, inside of here.
Number 5 is one of my favorite acting questions I have here. It is favorite, least favorite. I want to know your single favorite part of the acting process, like putting on a costume, seeing the set for the first time. But then I also want to know not necessarily your least favorite, but just a part of the process where you still see room to grow for yourself.
My favorite part is it's like a very, I think, off-brand answer for me. Like, it's very kind of actory. I really love the between action and cut. No one, am I allowed to swear on this?
Go for it, yeah.
No one can fuck with you. Like, if there's an emergency, you better wait for the fire. Like, it needs to burn. Like, do not do anything during action and cut, okay? I love that. I'm so fascinated and, like, comforted by how nothing can touch you in that time. Like, just do the scene. Like, there's stories of people, like, truly choking and being like, I cannot tell anybody that I'm choking, and just, like, moving to the side and just, like, silently dying. Like, because is this really this sacred thing of, like, do not mess up the take? And I love that.
My worst nightmare on sets is having to sneeze during a take.
Totally. I mean, I love it. I love the power that it has. I love everything that it represents, that it's, like, not really real life, and, like, it's this, like, safe, like, weird alternate universe where anything can kind of happen, just as long as it's only the people that are on the camera. Like, everybody else, like, you don't exist. Like, get out the shot. You're bleeding, don't care, bleed to death over there. I'm obsessed with it. My least favorite thing, Oh my God, the hours. And oh my God, and like being picked up in the dark in a car and like going somewhere and you turn up to like a room or a trailer that is so cold and damp. And you don't know where you are. And if there's an emergency and you needed to call, you would be like, I don't know, I'm at work, like there's a tree.
Feels like you're describing the start of a horror movie right now.
I mean, it is. Like, parts of being an actor, believe me, are a horror movie. A lot of public speaking involved. You gotta do a lot of stuff in your underwear sometimes, okay? Like, it's all kind of a bit like someone's version of a horror movie.
A little bit.
It is just like waking up at like 4:20. On this, there was a lot of like 3:20 a.m. alarms. And for like hair and makeup or whatever it is, like the light in the winter, you always have to wake up so early to like make the most, because like you're usually done by like 4:35 because it's dark outside. Yes, the early mornings and like the cold car journeys and just not knowing where you are.
The cold is what gets me the most.
Yeah, the cold, the damp, the dark. Every single time you're doing a scene, you usually are just freezing cold. And it's like 5 o'clock in the morning and you're just expected to like just do a 5-page scene and you have to like pull out the bag.
I respect this least favorite greatly because I would complain about the exact same things.
Yeah, I think it's a fairly realistic one. I hope
without
it
a
is,
doubt.
yeah.
Without a doubt. If I was ever on a set like that, I would probably just walk. When I go to Sundance, I walk around with hand warmers like the entire time.
That's different though, because isn't the altitude crazy there?
It is.
Yeah, like that's a whole different thing. I don't think I could ever go there.
You would be okay. I get a little over-obsessed with altitude sickness, so it's the only time in my life where I actually drink water. So I guess going to Sundance is probably good for me.
Yeah.
So I drink water and I walk around with these little electronic hand warmers everywhere I go.
That's what you on set, like every single coat, you have these like keep warm coats, and they just kind of circulate between all the cast and crew. And you just put your hand in, there's like 10 hand warmers in them. And when they're no longer warm, they're like mini bricks. They like go to like these really hard like gravel things.
I feel like
that's such like a core memory of being on set.
I need to buy all this for Sundance, which like shockingly is not that far away already.
Oh my God, yeah.
Wild. Where's the year going? All right.
Do I get another roll?
One more roll, and then we move on to the meat of the interview.
Do you love them doing like this little thing?
I do. I love when people get really into dicey questions. 5
again.
You can have another roll.
Oh, okay.
7's my other Dune question. This one's role swap. If you could swap roles with anyone in the ensemble, so not only do you play their role, but you get to see them play your role, who would you swap with and why?
I think that the most kind of like obvious one would be to swap with sarah-sofie. So I would play the princess and she would play young Valya. Because they have flavors in both of them of like a similar thing, like they both have like a rebellious and like a stubbornness to them. But mainly because I would just want to wear the costumes that she gets to wear. And I want to learn to do the fighting.
Oh, yeah.
She is the coolest part. Like, by far, she gets to do like when you think of like being in a show like that, she gets to do all of it. And I would love it.
She does do some pretty cool stuff.
She gets to tick every box. I would love it. And she would be an amazing Valya. Because there's just similar qualities of Valya in Inez that's in Valya. Because I think that's what Valya sees in her in the first place.
Oh, yeah. Valya essentially, like, made her.
Yeah, I would want to go and do some fight scenes with an Atreides, big time.
I think you would crush those fight scenes. You get some good stunt work in the finale, which we're going to get to.
They never told me about until I was on the day.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back for a new edition of Collider Ladies Night. Very excited to welcome Jessica Barden to the show for Dune Prophecy. I'm so excited to have one of these conversations with you.
Me too. I'm really excited.
What was the movie you saw, the performance you saw, the personal experience you had, whatever it may be, that first made you say to yourself, I absolutely have to be an actor?
I don't know. I don't know. This is kind of like, I didn't have like there was no kind of like moment, genuinely. There was never like, I wasn't like in a school play or anything, like, there was no performance. It was more to do with, it wasn't like that. It wasn't like that. I come from a very, I come from a part of England. It's very working class, like it's countryside, like it's in the north, and people tell stories. It's quite similar to like the Welsh stuff, like how the Welsh guys, like Richard Burton and like Michael Sheen came up, where like it's very much like pub community culture of like telling stories and entertaining people and like who is the loudest and who is the funniest. And it's very male centered. And it's usually the guys that are very funny. And it was that feeling that made me want to get attention and be an entertainer. It wasn't about like being in movies or like being in Hollywood or a performance or an actor necessarily. It was like a feeling of wanting to perform and make people laugh.
Do you remember when that feeling came into focus a bit more in terms of confirming to you that you were good at acting?
Yeah, I did impersonations. My dad would do an impersonation of somebody trying to get out of a plastic bag. Okay?
That's not what I was expecting.
So everywhere that we went, my dad would do this really quite incredible like physical comedy routine of like somebody trying to escape from a plastic bag. And everywhere that we went, like people were obsessed with it. Like it was just like his thing. And I was like, oh, I want to be able to do that. Like, I want to, like, perform like that. I want to, like, make people feel good and, like, make people laugh. And from that. And then there was movies, like, we watched, like, every Robin Williams and every Jim Carrey book. Like, that very, like, physical comedy thing. And we loved it. And we would act these scenes out.
Oh, I have to follow up on that because you just mentioned Jim Carrey and Robin Williams. What is the scene of theirs that you would act out the most?
Everything in Mrs. Doubtfire.
That's the right answer.
Every line of Mrs. Doubtfire. To this day. I mean, and The Mask.
Oh, I love The Mask.
And also Danny DeVito as the Penguin. To me, like those...
These are all the right names and titles.
Yeah, like these are the three... They're really important characters. Like, I mean, I think for me, like for cinema, truly, I think that The Mask is just like these very... I guess the theme is like these very larger-than-life, eccentric characters. Like on paper, you would be like, that's crazy. Like, who's going to play that role? There's something kind of like repulsive about them in a way. And I just thought that it was absolutely incredible.
And then in the finished performances, I love how like singular all of them feel. Like I know with certainty to my core, there isn't a single other actor on the planet who would bring those characters to screen quite like those three did.
Beyond. And then obviously as I got older, I could like appreciate that. And it's just somebody like absolutely at like the peak of what they can do because they're playing these characters that are like, who really would want to play them? A lot of people probably would have passed on things like that, you know?
I think at the time, probably a lot of people would have passed. And because what they did with those roles, now there's probably like more open-mindedness and interest in pursuing those paths.
Danny DeVito as the Penguin is I mean, wait, the new Penguin with Colin Farrell is, I mean, it's a completely different thing. But for what that movie was and that genre, like absolutely stunning. I think it just, the vulnerability of it, of all, not Mrs. Doubtfire, she's just like in a league of her own, but definitely a lot of what Jim Carrey was doing as well with The Mask. Like, I mean, you can see parts of what influenced me to be interested in playing a character like Valya, really. I've always been very interested in unsavoriness, if you will, you know, and I guess it probably is influenced by these movies that I was watching. I like things that are kind of grotesque, you know?
I could see the connection you're making there, and also just like people who are complex.
Yeah, and bizarre.
Yeah, like eccentric in a way that makes them a little more like engaging, interesting, and exciting to follow.
I was not watching like Audrey Hepburn. I mean, there was also a whole part of my life where I was really obsessed with old Hollywood, but never like the Audrey Hepburn and the Marilyn Monroe stuff. I wasn't like watching Kramer versus Kramer and being like, oh my goodness, like I want to be an actress one day. Like I was like pretending to get out of a plastic bag in the supermarket.
Amazing. So jumping ahead now, eventually you hit a point where you want to become an actor and maybe do it professionally. At that point, especially because I I think I've read that your parents just didn't know much about the industry.
I was super young.
What did you think was the first step to making that dream a reality?
I honestly, just blind hope, like maybe just like
honestly, that's not wrong.
just honestly, I mean, I did everything that everybody else was doing. Like I went to a drama group at a working men's club. You know, everybody went to it. I didn't go anywhere like special. But what I did do was I was an extra.
I was reading about that.
Yeah.
I feel like probably any single actor out there would benefit when they're first starting out learning about that space by being a background actor.
Well, I used it as I really climbed the ladder like right from the ground. Like I went and did extra work on kids' TV shows. And it was a mixture of, like, look, I was not, like, some great talent. Like, I was in the background. I wasn't doing anything. It was just, like, if you were well-behaved and, like, your parents weren't annoying, you would be given a speaking part, and that's what happened. And I worked my way up to, like, audition into stuff. And honestly, the career I have today started from being an extra in kids' TV, without question.
I mean, now that I said what I said before, I feel like anyone, even in my line of work, would benefit from, at the very least, working background on a set just to, like, feel what it feels like to be there.
You never forget it. Like you never forget how important that is. Like you don't ever forget, like, you need atmosphere for your scene. And I think what it does is, I think what it's done for me anyway is, like, I've also never become complacent. You know, there's so many people that want to do this. And being an extra is really hard. Like, you're not paid a lot of money. For me, as a kid, like, I was paid a lot of money. I was paid, like, $20 a day for it. It was amazing. But, you know, you're not paid a lot of money for it. And you are just stirred up all day on set. And, like, no one really talks to you. You know, you're not looked after in the way that actors are. But it was so exciting because you get to see all the sets. Like, you get to see the scenes. I really loved it. But mainly, you know, I feel really proud that I, like, worked up this ladder. I kind of love it. It's a good story.
No, it should be something that you're very proud of. So you start to work up the ladder and you start to get larger roles in films and shows. I got two questions about that. First one is, of all of the earliest films and shows you were in, which would you say taught you the most about what you valued in an on-set environment?
Well, I was on a soap opera. So you learn a lot from doing a soap
Best place to
opera.
learn.
I was in and out of a soap opera by the time I was 16. I mean, you learn so many things there because, like, you're working with 3 different blocks of 4 scripts, like 3 different directors. What I learned is that I can do things really fast there. I think you'd be really hard pushed to find an actor who was ever on a soap opera that isn't like, yeah, I can learn lines in 5. It teaches you how to do things very fast. It teaches you that you can't really be precious with, like, a process or anything. I learned that what I needed actually from working on a soap opera was I needed a sense of like equalness because it can be there can be a really big hierarchy in soap operas because there's some people that have been there for like 50 years and some people that have been there for 5 minutes and there's like chairs that you can't sit in, and I learned that I never ever wanted to do that. Like I didn't ever want to be kind of protected. Because I think it was there's a protectiveness, like, because you're really weirdly famous when you're on a soap opera. Like, you're really recognizable. It's like a very bizarre type of fame that I experienced for like a year of my life. I also learned that I never wanted to experience that ever again. Like, I didn't ever need to be. Full stop, I learned by the time I was 15 that, like, I did not want to do this, like, just to be famous, which I think everybody has to, like, go on their own journey with that. I learned that I wanted to always be so nice to younger people as an old person, because I think a lot of the older people in soap operas are a bit kind of like, they've been there for a long time and they want people to do things the way that they do them, and I was always kind of scared of the older actors in a way, and I didn't ever want to be like that. The main thing that I learned was that I wasn't interested in just being famous.
I want to go back to the veteran actor thing. Do you remember a veteran actor you encountered early on who led by example in that respect, and now you try to emulate them?
Yeah, so many. She was definitely not a true veteran. Do you know who Catherine Tate is? She's like a national treasure. I worked with her when I was a kid. I mean, she was like in her late 30s, but it felt like a veteran to me, and she could not have been nicer. The majority of the people that I've worked with have always been extremely nice. There was just like a few like arguably like extremely old people that were probably just like tired and were like, get out of my chair. And I was like, oh, I don't want to make people feel like this. And like very kind of like set in their ways working. And I wanted to always make sure that when it came to people like at the start of their career that I worked with Mark Rylance when I was a teenager, and he like could not have been like there's things obviously that he taught me, like, really just in passing, like, just rehearsing that I will remember for the rest of my life. And he's somebody, obviously, that, like, I think he probably, like, one of the reasons he still does it is to, like, work with young people. There's a lot of people that will still do it because they get to meet young people that are at the start of their careers. I already kind of feel like that now.
That's always the coolest thing in the world. Like, anytime that I speak to someone who's been at it for, like, decades and they're working with newer actors, I always love asking what they learned, even with all their experience, from the new actor, because with every single generation that joins this industry, we get, like, new techniques, new ideas, new energies, and that just benefits everyone.
The main reason why I love, I mean, even the girls that were in Dune, like, they're still, like, at the beginning of their careers, and, like, I just love being around them because they're not, like, jaded in any way, you know? Like, you remember, they're such, like, a blast of, like, oh my God, we're so lucky to do this.
You
like, this
feel
is
it
so
when you're
fun.
watching it, too.
Yeah.
And I think that's the appropriate energy for that kind of material, too. I want to go back to the fame thing you brought up, because I understand what you mean when you don't want to be famous, but I love highlighting the fact that the work you do matters. Like, people always say, like, you know, you're not saving lives, but, like, actually, you kind of could, and these stories do really mean a lot to a lot of people out there. So do you remember the first fan encounter you had that, you know, showed you that, like, your work does matter in an important way?
I didn't get that until the end of the fucking world. Like, there's no way. I mean, and then obviously with the end of the fucking world, like, it was just like, it has really been amazing. Like, for the last 8 years, really. It's incredible. I never get annoyed at people talking to me, ever, truly, genuinely. Like, people are so nice. Even now that I have a kid, like, people could not, it's the nicest group of fans ever. Like, they don't ask, I've never even had to say anything. They don't ask for pictures when my kid is there. Like, people just want to talk to you. I mean, so many things are, like, I wouldn't even repeat because they're so private. But, I mean, really, things... like, the show genuinely, like, changed people's lives at, like, their lowest point. And I think the thing which always strikes me about it is, like, the fan base is such nice people. Like, they don't even lay it on you in a weird way. They don't even make you feel like that was a weird conversation. It's just, there's something so like-minded about the energy of the people that it brought, where it just made them feel seen. You have the best conversations with people. I love it.
I love hearing that. That was the first thing I ever saw you in. I'm like, oh my, she is electric, and I will follow her to everything she does.
There was just something about the show. Alex experiences as well were like, I don't know how to explain it. They're not even over familiar with you. Like, they're still respectful. We're really lucky because I think some people have really insane experiences with people.
There might be some of those out there.
Yeah, we're extremely lucky.
Ooh, and that is a special show that I have to imagine also changed things for you a bit. I always love, in general, asking about the experience of breaking out in film and television, because from, like, our limited perspective, it could be completely different from what the person having the breakout is really going through. So I'll give you a two-part question about that. What is something about the reception that show got that changed something for the better for you? But then also, what would you say is a misconception about what it means to break out in film and television?
The main thing that it did to me was I was right. Okay? I remember I kept telling everybody on my team at that time, I was like, the show is going to be really big. I was like, I'm telling you, you got to remember that what a lot of people don't understand about the end of the fucking world is that our entire budget was not even one episode of a lot of this other stuff. And even, like, Sex Education that was, like, came up around the same time as it, we did not have any money. it was on the television at 11 p.m. at night. It was set to be aired at 11 p.m. on like a website show. It wasn't even going to be aired on main TV. And Netflix were involved in it, but they were not actively like making the show. You know, it was like very much like they gave us like a budget, which we desperately needed, and they were creatively involved, but there was no press. We didn't do any interviews for the show. There was no algorithm and nothing. There was no like, this show's coming out. No one was told anything. And I remembered like saying to my team, I was like, this show's gonna be really big. Like, people are gonna be really obsessed with it. I know it. Like, I know it. I could just feel it in my stomach. I was like, I know that the show is gonna do really well. It came out in the UK on the TV. No one watched it. And I was like, I'm telling you, like, when it goes on Netflix, and they were like, oh, we're so glad that you're proud of it. And then, you know, it blew up, and I was like, I was right. Like, but it wasn't just like I was right. It was this confidence that like my taste and like what worked for me and what felt right for me was authentic. There was an audience for it, and there was it was so important as well. I'm so grateful that this happened to me, that I got to experience genuinely loving the TV show and loving the work and loving the people that worked on it and believing in it and feeling so proud. Like, no single part of what I believe in was sacrificed at any point for that show. You know, we didn't want sexy sex scenes. We didn't want them to look glamorous. Like, we didn't want polished hair and makeup. Like, we didn't want them to look like 25-year-olds. We didn't want them to have, like, stylized kissing scenes. We didn't want anything to feel we wanted it all to be so, truly real. We didn't want the audience to watch it and be like, I should be like that, which is what a lot of those teen shows kind of go into. And it's great, and it's successful, and it's a formula that works. We wanted ours to be like a piece of toast. Like, we wanted it to be so comforting to people. And we won. It worked, you know?
It did. It worked exceptionally well.
And we really believed in it. And there was no, like, oh, I didn't really believe in that scene, or I wish that we'd done that different. Like, every single part of it was exactly what we wanted to do, and we were right. And it's such an important experience that so many people don't get in life.
That show is something else, and it made a special impression, and I feel like when a show doesn't get the press and the publicity and it catches on, it's
incredible.
It's more likely. Well, it's incredible, but it's also more likely that it catches on due to quality and quality alone, and having something of high quality be rewarded that way.
And I'll never experience
so
it
happy.
again. But it's truly like it's once in a lifetime. It's just like it was just incredible. And the way that we got to celebrate it, because we were true to ourselves.
All right. That is kind of making me think. I've started asking this question a whole lot. It's a really big question. I don't know if you're into these movies, but did you see Maxine when it came out this summer?
Yes.
So, you know, Elizabeth Debicki plays a director in that movie.
Yeah.
And at a point, she says, like, if this movie that we're making takes off, it's going to allow me to have a more meaningful voice in Hollywood. So I've gotten obsessed with this idea. When you first started out in this industry, what did you think having a meaningful voice in film and television meant? And now, after all this success, has that definition changed for you?
What did I think having a meaningful... it's like so beautiful to think back to when you like truly think that you can change the world, you know? You think that you can change the world, and then... But I'm also like, I mean, it's changed as well, because like I'm also like jaded by like being a parent, because you realize that you can only change like your own world. Also, you get tired, like, and you're like, I don't want to change the world anymore. I changed my mind. I thought that like... Yeah, I definitely remember like truly having visions of like, if I can like make it as an actor, like I'm gonna like make sure that like the underdog is like always okay. And then you're like, wait, I'm too tired for that. Like I don't really care about that anymore, but I can change my own life. And that's like, I think what has happened. Like, I think that part of growing up is like you realize that you can only really change your own world, which is probably the same thing.
What you said earlier, though, can change the filmmaking experience for others, just in terms of how you would want to carry
that's
yourself
what I mean.
As a tone setter
yeah,
on set.
You just kind of scale the whole thing back, because then you realize like by proxy, you can change the world from it. You just can't be like going on a soapbox all the time. But I love that, and I miss that time in my life. And I love it when I see people that are like 23 and they're like, I'm going to change the world with this performance. And you're like, hey, maybe you will, man. Like,
you never know.
I know. I do love it. I love it when you meet those actors that are just at that point in their career where they're like, I'm going to change the world.
Mm-hmm. We need that.
It's great.
I feed off that energy.
Yeah.
But also when you do scale it back, like even if it's not grand scale and it's that like
Because you run out of
every
energy.
section of that matters though.
You run out of energy. It's such a great time in your life when you're like, I can fight everything. Like, I'm going to fight every battle and win everything. It's amazing.
Being a mom is a lot. I told you before. I watched my sister do that, and I sit through a day of interviews and watching movies. I'm like, I'm tired. I want to go to bed. And then I watch what she does for her children, and I'm like, I don't know anything about being tired.
Look, I try not to be another actor that talks about being a parent because no one wants to hear from someone. No one wants to hear from us.
Tis important. A lot of people out there think they can't be a working person in this industry or any industry for that matter and also be a mother.
Yeah, that is entirely true. I mean, I put something on my Instagram yesterday. There's an actor, because I don't want it to seem like I'm like taking him on, because I'm not. Like, you know, the thing which I kind of come back to a lot is like guys will like take time out to like, there's an actor, like you'll probably have to work out who it is, who like famously like took 5 years out to like make shoes. And everyone's like, oh my God, like he went to make shoes. Like he's the best. Like he's the man. Like he went to make shoes. He walked away from being a movie star to make shoes. And women will like take 6 months out to have a kid, and people are like, so how are you going to get back into it? Like there's a gap in your CV now, and you're like, wait, hold on a second. Like, why can he just go and like make what? What kind of shoes? Clogs? Is he whittling them like from a tree? Like, what is it? Is it like the shoe machine from Jumanji? Like, I don't know. Like, it's a scale.
Jumanji.
I also tell this story as well where you could go to a job interview and they could be like, there's a gap here on your CV. Like, what was this? Like, explain this to me. Well, I actually moved to the jungle, and I raised tiger cubs. I watched them be born. Like, I supported the mother, like, through the pregnancy, and, like, I birthed them, and I studied them for 2 years. They were like, what? Like, yeah, that's a wild animal. Like, how did you know anything about this? I don't know. I'd never done it before. Like, I'd never raised, like an infant before. I'd never done it. And were you paid money for this? No, I wasn't paid any money for it whatsoever. Like, I did it because, like, that's what I wanted to do. Like, I chose to, like, raise the tiger. They'd be like, this is extraordinary. Like, you need to work in this office. Like, you're an extraordinary person. Like, you raised an animal. But why then, a woman goes back to work and you're like, yeah, I raised an infant. Like, no, I wasn't paying any money for it. And everyone's like, okay, yeah, sure. Like, we'll call you. But like, what is the difference? Like, do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, you're still raising something, but like, it's just not as cool because it's not like a tiger. And by the way, they can both still kill you very easily.
For what it's worth, from one person sitting here, just like, the utmost respect. Again, I watch my sister do it, and I'm like, you are a goddess.
It is super hard. Yeah, it's tricky, but it's genuine. The secret is that like it is actually like the best thing, but people don't really like spell it out like that because it's just like a secret thing that because you can't really explain it to somebody.
No.
You know? But I mean, the best thing is getting to do both of it. Obviously, like the best is going and filming,
which you are.
Yeah.
You went to New York Comic-Con pregnant to support your show.
Yeah,
That's
I'm really lucky.
The best of both worlds right there. It's a beautiful thing. And you know this already. I think your performance in Dune Prophecy is like next level, phenomenal. I could watch an entire series just from your character's perspective. It is so incredibly compelling. I have so many questions. The first thing I get obsessed with when starting a show, especially with a show that has so much history and lore, is having that like aha moment when you know you have just found your character. Did you have that with Valya? And if so, with what piece of prep or maybe with what scene in the show?
I think I knew her straight away. When I was thinking about it was actually when we were like thinking about what we were going to do with the voice. And we had like a certain amount of rules that like we had to follow in terms of like it had to sound vaguely the same as what the audience was used to in the movies, and like there's like a style of like just what it needed to sound like technically of like post-production stuff. But it was like, where does the voice come from? Like, what is it? And I was like, oh guys, like it's so obvious, like everybody could have a voice in some way. And when they agreed with that, I was like, it's fine. Like, I know I can do this. Like, because I wanted it to be, I think the beautiful thing about Dune is that we're playing humans. So it all has to be completely grounded in reality. And I think that's what really separates it and gets these amazing actors in it, because we're not aliens. Like, we haven't been bred from anything. We've been taken from this planet and we've just bred again on another planet.
Is there a unique place that you think Valya's voice comes from?
Yeah, I think it's that thing where like there are people who experience rejection or neglect in childhood. They're misunderstood in some way, and then a part of their brain develops like this hyper concentration. And it's the same as somebody like standing up and singing, and you're like, whoa, that person is amazing at singing, or that person is amazing at guitar. Like a lot of people have a skill that can silence people, and this is hers. It's just like a more like literal manifestation of it. Like she can silence people with this like control that she can emit.
Oh,
in
that's
some way.
So interesting.
And when they agreed with that, I was like, I get it. Like I know what I can do with this.
So this was another question I had, which probably leans into that scene in episode 3 when the whole family is around. I guess it was the dinner table.
Yeah.
And she's the only one with any sort of like urgency to right the wrongs in terms of her family's name. Like, is she the only one with that urgency because of that upbringing, that neglect that you reference?
I think it's just that thing where, again, very relatable thing where there kind of is usually just one person that's like, I don't accept this. I don't accept it, whether or not it's like, no, I'm going to go to college. Or no, I don't want to stay living here. Like, I want to go and live in New York. Like, I don't want to do small town stuff. Like, just completely relatable. There's usually always one person that's like, I just want to do it kind of different.
At that point in her life, like, what do you think is her dream outcome? Like if Valya at that point in her life had to envision herself making it, so to speak, what would the end look like?
Well, the interesting thing is that actually, like, hopping on Griffin's kind of trajectory is such small thinking for her, you know? Because she would have been so held back by just being his truth sayer. She probably would have eventually killed him in some way. That little, like, psychopath was always going to come out in some way, you know? Because it's like, it appears to be like once she leaves Lankiveil, like, she's like, oh my God, like, there's other people that exist that will appreciate me. Because the first person that she meets, like, does appreciate her, Riegel. So, you know, it's interesting to think about what would have happened if Griffin didn't die.
My head is exploding with follow-up questions because you bring up Griffin. I'll go to I think it was an episode 4 spoiler. What do you think young Valya would think of her older self if she knew how she was using Sister Theodosia?
She would respect it. Look, it wasn't necessarily something that we needed to discuss. I feel like me and Emily did discuss it, but yeah, we're playing somebody that is not a nice person. We decided that. Like, we did not mess around with this whole thing of where it's like, oh, you know, a lot of actors will be like, well, I have to like the person that I'm playing. Like, no, I think that she's like a completely correct version of like, she's a leader that is corrupt. There's no way for you to lead and be a good person. I don't believe in it. I don't believe in it now, you know, right now. Like, look at what we have to look at. Like, she's a really flawed person. To think that you can lead an order with that much power, there's something going on, you know? And yeah, she uses people continuously. Maybe she was using Griffin.
Every step of the way, I always also wonder, like, does she, to her core, think what she's doing is right?
Yes, because I think that there is like, yeah, and I think the way that I had to do that. Like, I had to think like that to like play the scenes properly. Yeah, she believes that everything that she does is right. Yeah.
I have so many specific questions that pertain to that idea, but before I move into too many spoilers, I do want to know about your collaboration with Emily. Actually, before I even get into that, when did you find out that you were her character counterpart? Like, is that just a shock to you to know that, like, I am like a younger Emily Watson?
I knew it. They had a conversation with me about this like a year and a half before I actually went and filmed it. So I always knew that Emily was going to play this role, but the role and the show was just like not in a place that I like. I didn't pursue it first time around. The role was a lot smaller, and then they came back a second time with Allison, and the role was bigger, and I was like, okay, like now I can fuck with it. I mean, sharing the role of Emily. I mean, it's kind of devastating because, like, I want to act with her, but then I would be like, actually, is it better to, like, collaborate in the way that we get to and have these, like, conversations that we get to have together and, like, share this person and talk about all this, like, and just, like, geek out on, like, emotion and, like, backstory stuff together. But she was incredibly open, like, always available. We didn't get really any physical time together because it's TV. You get, like, 45 minutes one day. Like, they bring you a lunch in and you, like, hang out for, like, an hour. And then we did eventually film together, but, like, it's in a weird way. But we were constantly, like, on the phone talking, and I'm sharing this type of character with her as well, like, because I think the character really meant a lot to both of us. We loved playing her, and I think that we got to kind of like exercise like a lot of muscles playing her that you don't get to do with a lot of other stuff. Like I think the things that we enjoyed the same things about it. So there was also like a very like unsaid connection with the things that we loved about it. Yeah, like playing a character like this and sharing it with somebody is really personal.
I can't believe how perfect the casting is too. Like, I've seen so much of your work, so much of her work. I know how boundless your potential is, but it's like if you would have said like these two people play the same character, I would have been like maybe, but I don't. And then what you see in the finished product, especially a particular scene in the finale, there's something about the intercutting that further amplifies the fact that it is so incredibly seamless.
I do get kind of freaked out when we play angry in it because we do play angry the same.
Ooh. There's some angry.
Like, we play mad the same.
All right, I'm just going to put up the spoiler. Like, we are going to talk about the full season. So if you have not seen all of the episodes of Dune Prophecy Season 1, just push pause, go binge it all, and then come back and push play, and the conversation starts again right here. Okay, I'm just going to go straight to the angry beat that I really want. It's in the finale episode. I
haven't seen it. You've seen it.
It's the choose scene.
Oh, yeah.
Because everyone's choose in that moment feels a little angry. Like, yours feels really angry, though.
Obviously,
was that a deliberate choice?
Yeah, because no one wants to be in her fucking club.
She's like, scary there.
Like, no one wants to be on my side. Like, okay, cool. Like, you can die then. Like, you know.
So deep down, when she says choose to all of those sisters around her, like, she knows what their choice is going to be.
At that point, yeah. I mean, it was a frosty entrance, wasn't it? It wasn't like a nice high welcome. Yeah. I think that she thoroughly kind of expects that everybody's going to do it. And she's not.
Do in spectacular fashion.
This was something that we spoke a lot about with Anna, the director of those episodes. I mean, she's misunderstood. Like, people don't like Valya. Like, she doesn't really understand, like, what she needs to do to be liked. She's so distracted by what she needs to do to feel powerful and, like, how she avenges herself. Because it's not even about her family anymore. It's like, how do I feel the way that I want to feel? And Tula is kind of loyal to such a fault that she doesn't even... It kind of messes her up because she always has, like, this person. But yeah, like, people don't like her. And I think she's offended by it.
Clearly very.
She's really upset by it.
Before I go further down the finale path, there's one specific episode 3 question that I really wanted to ask you. It's when she does the agony.
Yeah.
Because in that moment, as it's cut in the show, she comes out of it because Tula shows up.
Yeah.
Do you think she never would have and she would have succumbed to it had her sister not been there?
No, she was always going to be fine. She was going to be fine. No, she was always, you survive it or you don't, you know? She was always going to survive it because she is the voice, like, for no over explanation. Like, she was always going to do it. I think that what her hearing Tula and responding to Tula represents is that there is a heart in there somewhere, you know?
Oh, I like that way
Well,
of
I mean,
looking at
that
it.
is, like, she is vulnerable, you know, in the way that, like, a lot of kind of villains are. Like, she's the ultimate. She's like the Joker. Like, you feel sorry for the Joker, really, you know? You know what's wrong with him.
Oh, I'll repeat something that I asked Emily at the junket back in November, October. What is time? I don't know. October, because it was New York Comic Con. At the point in her life that you are playing her, what do you think she fears the most?
Like, just being insignificant.
Oof. Well, I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah, like, not doing anything.
And she goes on to do a lot. I'll jump to the beginning of...
What did Emily say?
I wish I had... There's another question that I'm going to repeat where I did note down Emily's answer. That particular one, I failed to do that. I'm trying to remember now.
I can listen to it.
I can't even remember what I did like earlier today, let alone October.
Well, October feels like last week, but like it was a very long time ago. It's insane.
It's 2 months ago already. What is this?
Insane.
What is time? I will look that up for you though. The first scene for you of the entire show, which is also the beginning of the finale, is the killing of Dorothea. This is actually the one that I did ask her. How do you think she carries killing Dorothea with her? Is it black and white? I know for certain I did the right thing. Or is there any, wavering, remorse, guilt, anything like that?
Yeah, I think you can see it in some of Emily's. Yeah, you can see it in Emily's performance. Yeah. Well, look, here's the thing. Like, Tula goes on and casually kills, like, a lot of people, okay? That comes very naturally to her. And I think that Valya actually is, at that time when she kills Dorothea, like, it's crazy. She really is like, I just killed a woman. It's a lot for her. And, like, the power, maybe it's something to do with, like, Tula uses, like, a tool that she knows about. And it's kind of like hunting, But whereas, like, Valya is like, oh, my God, I just discovered that I can kill people. And I didn't even do it. Like, they did it. Like, hers is a lot more complicated because... she doesn't actually touch the person. That's a whole ethical thing,
I'm vividly remembering Olivia's answer because the two of them were paired. And
Olivia would give like a really thought out. Like Olivia is so Tula, it's crazy.
She told me it was almost like a broader view of it. Like,
yeah, Olivia is Tula.
Like kind of like does it take away from the responsibility of the action by considering?
I'm pretty sure she went to law school.
It was a very relatable answer though, because
she's incredibly smart.
She's like, does it take away from your own guilt if you felt bad about what you've done? And I mean, really,
personally,
just like day to day, who doesn't think about that? If I killed somebody,
I'd be like, oh my God, I have to turn myself in. Like, I can't live with this.
The example that I brought it back to, like, to ground it a little. I'm like, I can't even like use all the toilet paper and not feel guilty about not replacing the roll.
I'm the complete same. But I mean, also they're like in Dune. Like, you just do what you gotta do to survive. Right?
Because, like, all you have is, like, the power
I think
that you gain in these
see
spaces.
In Emily's performance of Valya, like, she does not sleep well. Like, she goes to sleep and she really... And she's made a lot of sacrifices. She doesn't have really any genuine relationships. Does she even have feelings? Like, she's made a lot of sacrifices... for the Imperium, sure. Or is it just like she wanted to see how it felt,
Why do you think she makes all those sacrifices? Like, truly, to her core.
Like, I don't know. Like, is she a psychopath? Like, I do think that she is.
Does she care about the Harkonnen name?
No.
Truly.
She cares about her own. No, she doesn't. I don't think that she cares about the Harkonnen name. I think she cares about her place in it and like her version of the name, and she cares about like she's entirely selfish person. She is.
I will follow that up with this particular question. So in the finale, we get the scene between her and Tula where she chooses not to say sisterhood above all, but she says sisters above all.
Yeah.
Does she even mean that?
Yeah, of course. Because now Tula finally has something that she needs.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was hoping
Sorry,
so.
yeah.
Well, what was it like? Because I want to make sure to bring up Emma, and I think the two of you are phenomenal together. What was it
Thank
like
you.
working on that particular scene with her as a scene partner?
Oh, I loved it because I felt so protective of her. Like it was also kind of interesting because like she doesn't have a kid, so like it weirdly kind of made sense. Even though Valya doesn't have a kid, but there's something about her and like her life experience and like the pain of her. Well, like I think Griffin felt like she was losing her child in a way. And so it was interesting to manipulate her in that way, where like I know what she's gonna give up, but she doesn't know it yet.
Do you think she really would have looked out for Tula's child if she knew that he had survived?
No.
So Tula did the right thing.
No, I don't think she would have done because he's an inconvenience, I mean, he's a complication. He's a huge complication.
I love how forthright
and
you are with these
places
answers.
her to that crime ultimately as well. He's very messy.
This whole situation is so incredibly
It's
complex
very
and complicated,
messy.
which is why every character in this world is like that too. Every single time I decide to trust a character in the show, I am proven wrong that I
Right.
should not have.
That's Dune.
No, it is Dune. It is Dune. Jumping to the Griffin flashback, because I'm assuming that's what you meant by one of the more stunt-heavy moments.
Yeah, I had no idea. I read that as Emily doing it all. And then I turned up in the day and they're like, do you want knee pads? I was like, for what?
I love the intercutting there. I thought that was all beautifully done. What surprised you most about what it takes to do a stunt-heavy scene like that?
I had to pull him out of that water and he's like 6'5". What surprised me about it honestly, what surprised me about it is how much of a big deal they make out of it when actors do it. They're like, you're going to get hurt. I'm like, I'm not going to get hurt, hon. Like, come on, it's fine. It was hard pulling him out of that, pool of water. And they were like, we're going to try not to let you guys get wet. And the first time that we did it, we were absolutely drenched. But just, the whole thing of, scrabbling around, they're so protective of actors. They think that we're made of glass, and you're like, what are you talking about? In real life, you do stuff like this all the time. They never want you to get hurt, and you're like, it's just so much easier to just do it. I love doing that, but it was so funny. We really read it that it was all going to be Emily, and then when we there, she was wrapped 12 p.m. I was like, what?
Here's a question that I have for you that leans into that, and the answer might be no, but technically, that is Emily's version of the character's vision of herself with her brother.
So, no, we did it on the day. It was that's actually what happened.
Do you think, when you're playing her in that moment, do you think of it as I'm actually, playing the older Valya at this point?
No. And they were very specific about that because they didn't let us watch what each other was doing. No, they wanted it to be she
melded.
Was actually having a vision. This was the memory of it.
I have to let you go soon. I'll ask one question about a potential season 2 because we're waiting and seeing, keeping our fingers crossed. I want to explore so much between the existence of your version of the character and where we there's so much more you can do there.
Yeah.
Is there any particular moment of Valya's youth that you in particular would most like to explore in a second season?
I want to see Griffin go to the war. That's the main thing. I want to go and see what actually happened, and I want to see her go and ask Vorian. And he's like, I didn't do it. And she's like, he's telling the truth because she used the voice on him. That's in the book.
Yeah.
She goes and I want to see that. I want to see her have the realization that every decision that she made was also it's just another lie. She doesn't even know what the truth is. And what does that make him more mad? Like, she doesn't even know who killed him. And the realization that maybe he was just killed, like, in battle by another person, and it wasn't this, like, epic story. He just died, like, in, there was nothing special about it.
That moment and, like, processing that,
I know.
feels like it could sustain a whole season of TV all on its own.
It's really sad. There's an Emmylou Harris song called Red Dirt Girl. I mean, it sounds like I'm going down a path, but there's a song and it's about this girl that loses her brother in the Vietnam War, and it's absolutely fucking devastating. Like, just like, these men that just like die in these fields, and the person that killed them like doesn't even know that they did it. And it reminds me of that because, like, if like your brother dies like by this epic war lie and this horrible guy, this like notorious famous guy did it, and like you need to avenge him, but like, what if he just was like in a ditch and like trampled or something? Because that's the reality of these wars for people, you know?
Yeah.
I would want to see her have a relationship as well.
Oh.
Like, is she capable of falling in love? Is she capable of being attracted to someone?
Do you think she is?
I have no fucking clue. That's what I mean. Like, but I'd love to try and see how it pans out. What happens if she genuinely has compassion and feelings for somebody? Because I don't think that we've seen it yet.
Okay.
What if she meets her equal? Oh, I mean, I guess Desmond Hart is not her equal.
I mean, based on what I've seen in the full season, I don't think so anymore.
No.
Ooh, so many possibilities.
Yeah, there's a lot.
I always say that this is the manifestation table. So Dune Season 2, Dune Prophecy Season 2, please. Every single episode of Collider Ladies Night ends with this particular question. In this industry, people give each other awards. I think that's super cool. We should keep doing that. I often find that nobody tells themselves good job as much as they should, though. Can you tell me something you accomplished making Dune Prophecy Season 1 that you know you will always be able to look back on and say, you know what? I am so proud of what I did there.
Does it have to be like filming on the show? Or can it be
No.
okay, I actually worked a 7-day week, the final week of this film, 7-day week. And then on the 20th of December, I flew back alone with my 2-year-old child with like heavily filming, okay? I flew back alone. 2 connecting flights, flying overnight. I did it alone with my kid. So like, and I will never forget that I did that. I was really proud of myself. Like, it was really hard. I just like given, truly, like I tried so hard on the show. I gave it all that I had. And then I got on the flight to New York and it was just horrible. Like, I was alone with my kid. And I remember being like, I'm proud of myself. Like, I can do this. Like, I can do this job and like have kids and I can make it work. And I'm not like, I don't have to like think about like, but how am I going to get to this part of the world? Like, you can do it. And that, I'm really proud of myself for doing that.
I love the answer to that so much.
Thank you.
I'm going to say congratulations on everything you've accomplished on Dune Prophecy Season 1 and all the good that I know is coming your way in the future. Hurry up and come back to Collider Ladies. No, because I could have talked to you for hours. Like, I
love this. This is so fun. I know I talk a lot.
The surface.
I talk a lot.
I like when people talk a lot, when they have, like, important, like, compelling, exciting things to say.
I love it. I love
your
doing
answers
podcasts.
were just so full.
I love doing these things. You had really good questions.